Welcome to the next podcast from Millinery.Info. This episode is with Katherine Kelly, the founder and host of the Hattember Competition. Entrants of Hattember are sent a curated bag of materials from Hatters Millinery Suppliers, in which they create their entry from. This year there are 3 categories: millinery, wearable art, and novice. The competition supports the John Skipper Kelly Fund. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Katherine as we learn more about the competition, who it supports, and her background in millinery. This episode is made possible thank you to our podcast sponsors: the Millinery Association of Australia, Katherine Cherry Millinery, Hat Academy, The Essential Hat, and Louise Macdonald Milliner. We'd love to invite you to become a sponsor of this podcast series. If you have any questions about being a sponsor, please send us through a message, or you can register as a podcast sponsor through the link on our website. Thank you so much, Kath, for joining me on our podcast series. Lovely to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here too.
So we'd love to start off by hearing about Hattember. So maybe let's dive back to the beginning. How did Hattember first come about?
Hattember first came about was just an inspired idea I had to raise a little bit of money that connected my passion for millinery with raising some funds for the family fund we have created together, called the John Skipper Kelly Fund, in memory of my late husband John. And in that competition, what we did was we just got people to post things on Instagram. We created an Instagram account and I got someone to do some lovely illustrations. So that really started the ball rolling in the initial stages of it. And we raised about $4,000 that year in doing that. So that was a good kind of start to the idea.
And how many years ago was that?
So it was 2015 was actually the first one I did. I did then leave it for a year. There was another sort of group that came up, had a similar idea, and I felt that I really had to change the concept for it to be successful. So it was when I bought Hatters Millinery Suppliers, actually nearly 3 years ago now, that I thought that was an opportunity to really use the Hattember idea again. So we relaunched it again after really speaking to Jenny, who I bought the business from, Jenny Lyle. It had been in the business, the family, for over 95 years. So I felt that I wanted to do something that was a little bit of a legacy to them. And they had started the tutor competition at the Hats Off conventions. And so it was really a bit of a combination of that idea where the tutors would be given a hat box full of, curated materials and be required to make a hat in about 3 hours. That was quite challenging. I actually had the opportunity to be involved in that competition. I think once with a broken arm, but anyway, I still created something wearable, hopefully. So hopefully someone's still wearing that.
Yeah.
And then what we did was we decided to bring that as something we could do from the shop. So what we did is we curated some materials and we send the curated materials out to people. So that's the form that it's in now. Yeah.
That's great. So going back to last year, what did the participants receive in their bundle?
In their bundle. So we had 2 sections last year. We created a wearable art category, following on from an artisan category the year before, and a millinery category. So the milliners all received some Swiss braid. So Tressa is a braid. We import that as in Hatters, and it's a absolutely beautiful braids that they manufacture. And we also had some crinoline in there and some cinema, which of course is one of those very commonly used, but it's just so sculptural and beautiful. We decided that was a really good material to put in that little curated bundle. And in the other curated bundle for the wearable art people, we also put a different type of tresser Swiss braid in there with ginseng that people had to create amazing things from. Yeah. So we usually put 3 different materials in there, and then we require, or we say you can add another 3 types of materials to there if you like, or you can buy more of another material, or if you've got something at home that you think is just, and it's just lovely what people find in their treasure chest to go with it, which is just amazing. I remember Jo Honan had this beautiful fabric that was just perfect with the beautiful piece she created. So yeah, it's really lovely what people find to complement their treasure chest that comes from us. Yeah.
That's so fantastic. And you're going to be running the competition in 2020, and Hattember aligns with September, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
And so people will be able to register to be part of the competition as of May. Do you have an idea of what will be in their bundles that they'll be receiving?
Oh, we're still discussing it, to be honest. We're very, we haven't actually decided exactly yet. So we'll probably still be discussing it right up until the day we have to wrap the bundles up, to be honest. Because wouldn't it be nice to do this? Or wouldn't this be gorgeous, this fabric in there? Or wonder what people would do with this. So yeah.
Also part of the challenge that for the participants to open it up and
go,
what am I going to do?
Yeah, we want them to have that aha moment, not a, oh no, I hate that colour.
And so you keep them roughly, last year was in colour blocks, so I think the Milliner got like a colourway of it was all red, it was all blue, it was how have you found that people have responded to that? Do they stick to that, or do they like to add in a contrast colour?
It varies, to be honest, but I think mostly people have stuck with the monochrome idea, just keeping it with the shades and tints of the one colour. But that seems to work quite well, I think. That probably makes it a bit more of a commercial product at the end, perhaps. But we've found, I've only had a couple of times people have gone, I really don't like this colour, but I've ended up making something that I really love. So that's good. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So a milliner or a textile artisan can sign up and they receive their bundle. How does it work from there?
Okay, so the pieces all get sent to us here at the shop at Embellish Atelier, and we keep them under wraps, basically. We don't let anybody see what's in the box, and I don't know what's in the box particularly. And then we allocate a judging day. So in the past couple of years, we've had 3 judges to judge the hats in the different categories. So then I go home and we've done it sort of either here or at my home, where we've laid out all the hats, and then we very carefully make sure that there's a number on the hat, and the judging sheets are all ready. So there's no way that the judges know whose hat or whose creation is the one that they're looking at on the table. And so that we lay them all out, and then we have the judging sheets, and then I also get someone external to add up all the numbers. Someone else has to judge them, because I look at them all and go, oh, I can't believe that. That's so beautiful. Isn't that clever? So I'm always full of admiration for every piece that comes in.
And what are the criteria that you have set for the judging criteria?
We look at workmanship is a really big one for us. Creative use of the materials. So we really like to see people use our materials in sort of non-conventional or non-traditional ways. I think that's really great to see that. We think that these materials don't always just lend themselves to the things that we're taught. It's great when people come up with their own creativity and lend itself. And we also look at the traditional elements and principles of design, making sure that every hat, adheres to, line and all of those different elements and principles of design that we love to make sure that we got. Yeah.
And who has been part of your judging panel previously?
So in the past, I've had Neil Grigg, who's a prominent Sydney milliner here in Sydney, and Rebecca Reid they've been our judges for 2 years. Rebecca's the head of millinery at Opera Australia and very talented. Jenny Lyle was one of the judges as well. And last year we decided to go out on a limb and invite a Mayor Zabar out from Israel. He's a very creative and amazing milliner. We thought he would add a little bit of extra to our judging panel, and that did prove to be a great experience. He was wonderful, and we also hosted a series of workshops with him as well, which is great.
Do you know who's going to be on the judging panel for this year?
That's a surprise.
We'll have to wait to find out. And are you planning to be running classes surrounding the announcement of the winners again? Or?
No, I think this year will be a little bit of a quieter affair. I think with the COVID-19 that we're all experiencing at the moment, I think we'll just sit tight and just the competition will be really lovely for an opportunity for everybody to be able to create something was what we felt was important at this time. We do have a gala. We set down a date for the gala. However, we'll just see how things go. If we have to do it as an online gala, then we'll all be so experienced with Zoom by then that we'll be able to have Zoom parties.
It's a wonderful platform.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what is the criteria for someone to be able to enter? Do they need to have a set level of experience, or who is the competition open to?
Yeah, we've actually opened the competition to everyone. We're having a millinery competition and a wearable art, but we did decide this year that it would be really prudent to open a novice or a student category.
So if someone's interested in taking part, how can they go about it?
We have a Hattember website. It gives a little bit of background as to past winners and everything, and it's got a click through, and you can buy whichever category you want to buy. The funds that are raised do go towards the John Skipper Kelly Fund, but we've got a click-through category, so it makes it easy to register, and we can keep an eye on who needs to get the mail-outs and everything. So that can just be done online.
Wonderful. And could you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do with the John Skipper Kelly Foundation Fund?
We, as I said, we've done this as a way to continue John's legacy. He was very interested in creating opportunities for young leaders, and particularly supported a couple of groups called Osgreen was one of them, and Aurora Foundation. So we've extended that work to create scholarships for young people who want to work in areas of social change. So the Aurora Foundation has been fantastic. They do lots of leadership activities with young law students to go and work in Indigenous communities, and Osgreen's sort of leading the world with getting young people to understand and to lead pathways and projects for environmental issues. So that's a couple of the projects that we're working on. We're also looking at my youngest son is an artist, and he and I are working to kind of establish some sort of arts grant scholarship as well. And so that's forming, and we might be able to announce that soon as well, we hope. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It's such a lovely culmination of all of your passions coming together in one.
Yeah, thank you. That's how I feel as well. And it's a great way to celebrate millinery and collaborate with other artisans and like-minded people. Like I did have a couple of girls have done lots of beautiful illustrations of the different hats for us. Olivia Goodby did some a couple of years ago, and Meg Nicholson did some for me one year. So that's really nice to bring young people through and introduce them. They don't have to be doing millinery, or they may not go on to do millinery, but that's a really lovely project for them as well.
Did I see that you have had the winners of last year's competition sketched up and it's on a tea towel? Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's actually the winners of the year before, the 2018 one. So yes, Olivia Goodby did these illustrations. So that was the top 10, I think, plus the Hattember prize, which we give a Hattember prize. We choose that prize from all the people who work at Embellish or Hatters Millinery Suppliers. We get to vote as well, because we think it's only fair that we get to vote on our favourite hat, and we look at the workmanship of the award as well. But yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Stunning.
And it's a really beautiful linen as well, so we think that's a really nice project to have worked on. I like working on those projects as well.
And you mentioned there's your team select their favourites, so that's a prize that's given out. What are the other prizes that go to the place winners?
We give a first, second and third for each category, and they're a combination of prizes from Hatters Millinery Suppliers. So usually the Hat magazine has come on board to be one of our major sponsors over the years. Ladies in Racing magazine, that's been a wonderful collaborative opportunity as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it'd be lovely to hear about your hat making, because you have been a milliner for a wonderfully long career at this stage. How did you first become interested in millinery?
How did it? Well, as a little girl, I never allowed to go out of the house without a hat on, and probably really my first experience was someone came to our house with a big trunk full of dress ups for me, and there was lots of hats in there, and Mum made a really beautiful display of them on the wall, and I always was intrigued by them. She used to help me make little hats for my dolls and all sorts of things. So I was always sewed. I was taught to sew at a really young age, and I was always absolutely fascinated by millinery. I actually did my very first formal hat making lesson in London with Valtraud.
Oh,
Back in, I don't know, Valtraud, right? Remember. So that was that, and it did sparked a little kind of interest in me. I made my daughter little flat pack sew-on hats, and I'd always trimmed hats for myself. So yeah, I've always had a real fascination for millinery, and I decided to really formalise that training here in Sydney, and I went to TAFE. And learned there, did my certificates and everything, and just kept on practicing. And I'm still learning. I really feel like I'm still a novice some days. I've got some new glasses though, so I can actually see much better.
very important. That's a very important tool. I think we underestimate that.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, I feel like I'm still learning, but I've absolutely loved it. I never thought that, really focusing on one aspect. I was a home economics and textile and design teacher, and I always felt like I was a bit of a jack of all trades, and I really wanted to focus on one thing. And so millinery has become that. But millinery, there's so many aspects of millinery, and I think that's what I think, I'd like to do bright. I love doing bridal. I love doing embroidery. I love working with beautiful materials. I love doing some slightly more theatrical pieces. I love working and manipulating and using materials in different ways. So I think that passion for fabric and texture and colour is one of the most exciting things in millinery. You can do as much or as little as you like, and you're always learning new techniques, like bundles of people often bring old hats here, and I just love exploring and seeing what techniques they use to create the hats. It's never ending. Yeah.
And when did you launch your label Embellish Atelier? When did that come about?
Yeah, that came around about that time that I started. So I'd actually been working in soft furnishings, so making lampshades, and I called them hats for your lamps. And then I decided to keep the Embellish logo for my millinery, and label for my millinery, and that's been really lovely. And the atelier, I remember a beautiful customer came in one day and said to me, your studio, it's just like a real French atelier. And that was like, oh, that's me.
I'm going to adopt that.
I'm going to adopt that. Yeah.
That's lovely. And how long have you had your shop front for? Because you have a shop front that acts as your showroom for your hats, as well as a studio and space for now Hatters Millinery as well. How long have you been there?
I've been here, it's 5.5 years. So it's a beautiful old Edwardian, really, building from 1910 with beautiful pressed metal ceiling, which we managed to reveal when we were renovating it. And yeah, I've completely filled it, packed it to the rafters with hats and millinery materials and creative things. So yeah, it's a really beautiful space to come and work. And I run workshops here too, and also have the supplies. So it's a great space. I love it. Yeah. And I've also got a really beautiful collection of hat blocks on the back wall there, which I just look at and, love seeing every day. Oh, I wonder what we could make today. Or
So how do you come to acquire blocks from your collection? Are a lot of them vintage, or have you had some made? What's the makeup of your block?
Both, yeah, a bit of both. I was lucky enough to, my mum bought me a lot at the beginning. She spoiled me. And I did acquire a couple of really, lovely collections. And I get some made from time to time as well. So, yeah. And when I bought, have the Hatters Millinery Suppliers, I have the S.A. Brown collection as part of my collection now as well. And there's some really special, really beautiful blocks amongst those.
So lovely. And how do you go? You have a lot of hats that you wear, being your brand and managing Hattember, but also Hatters Millinery Suppliers as well. How do these all intertwine for you?
Well, it keeps me kind of busy, but I have two wonderful staff who come and help me every day. Lily, who you probably have spoken to at Hatters Millinery Suppliers, and Nozami, who helps me. She's a beautiful, does beautiful work. We're lucky. I've got a really lovely team, and it works really well.
And could you tell us a little bit about Hatters Millinery Supply? How did this come about for you, and what makes it unique?
Well, I mean, I feel like I was probably one of their best customers. I like to think I might have been. But Jenny approached me and said, we think you'd be a good fit. And I went, oh, no, I actually can't imagine doing that. Like, I could just visualize all the things that I couldn't do. And anyway, I said, well, just leave it with me and I'll just think about it for 24 hours. And I spoke to my family and my accountant, who said, we think that'd be great for you. So on their advice, not my own instinct, I went, okay, I'll give it a red hot go. And I really surprised myself. I actually really love the materials. And I think that's my core love, is materials and fabrics and texture. And so they have always had a legacy, I guess, of having the best quality. And so I've decided to keep that. We only have the same suppliers. I don't have a vast warehouse, so I need to curate everything that comes in quite carefully. And so I've decided to stick with that, for the moment, is that we have really nice quality. I try and have a really good seasonal range of colours. So that's been really lovely, developing relationships with suppliers, working out seasonal colours that we want to incorporate into our collection, choosing colour names for things. All of those things is really lovely. We've just had a really beautiful new box full of Julian Foray Petersham and Grosgrain ribbons arrived, and you open the box and it's just like, oh, we can't contain ourselves sometimes. What are we going to do with this? And oh, won't so-and-so love this? So yeah, it's been really lovely. And I love that, we get, because we're now a storefront, we actually invite customers to come in to the shop. People wander through, and so they can see what I've created, we've created in Embellish, and that's kind of a source of inspiration too for some of the things that can be bought in the supply division. It's really set up probably just for picking mainly, but we try to have it so that people can see, and we'll get out materials and help people. We'll help match colours in people's dresses and for clients, and so we offer a fairly comprehensive service of assisting our clients when they come in. We get lots of TAFE students and students come in, really wanting to learn a little bit about the materials and what they do. So we're here to assist with that. So that's a point of difference, that we've come back to the shop front again. S.A. Brown and Hatters Millinery Suppliers, as I said, had been in business for 95 years, and they'd moved from York Street in Sydney to Chatswood, where they had a shop there. And then they were, really the first online millinery supply business, I think, probably in the world. And so they ran that, they were real forerunners in the online world.
So if someone's looking to take part in Hattember, how can they go about this?
Well, they could always register online and take part in the competition. People could also register for the People's Choice, so they can vote for their favourite hat in the People's Choice. They could come along to the gala event, donate to the JSK Fund. The other thing that you could do is just wear a hat every day.
Thank you so much, Kath, for being part of our podcast series. It's been great to hear about Hattember and Hatters and Embellish Atelier. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Millinery.Info with Katherine. We look forward to seeing the entries for the 2020 Hattember Competition. Make sure to visit Hattember on social media or the Hatters website to register. We would like to thank our Patreon podcast sponsors for making this episode possible: the Millinery Association of Australia, Katherine Cherry Millinery, Hat Academy, The Essential Hat, and Louise Macdonald Milliner. Would you like to become a sponsor for this series? We would love to welcome you into our support team. Podcast sponsorship is from $15 per month and is run through a platform called Patreon. As part of your sponsorship, you receive a thank you in the monthly podcast, link to your business from our website, and in the Millinery.Info newsletter. We have a wonderful stock of previous podcast episodes. You can find them on our website, which has had a little bit of a revamp, which we'd love for you to check out. You can also find us in your favourite podcast app. Remember to subscribe so you can find out when the latest episodes are released. We hope you enjoy this episode with Katherine, and we look forward to bringing you another one soon.